Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
First, more than half of all Muslims in the UK believe government policies have had a negative impact on their lives. That's according to a new report exclusively shown to this programme. A study by the Islamic Human Rights Commission found many people feel they've been treated with suspicion and mistrust. The report's authors say the government's security and anti-extremism measures, among other policies, have fuelled discrimination against Muslims in Britain. In the next hour, we'll get reaction. But first, Divya Talwar from the BBC's Asian Network has this investigation. It does contain some distressing images.
Our findings suggest that Islamophobia in the UK is at unprecedented levels.
Calling me you're an F-word bomber, you are a terrorist.
You're the devil! You're the devil! You're ISIS!
My biggest fear is to be killed in the street.
Muslims are viewed with suspicion and mistrust. We are blamed for everything.
I don't know what life is like without Islamophobia or racism.
I think we will be the scapegoats for a very long time.
The government's promised to do more to tackle Islamophobia, but with controversial anti-terror laws introduced this year, will it make the problem worse? A new report claims government policies like those countering extremism are one of the reasons many Muslims feel like they're coming under suspicion, are facing discrimination and even abuse.
Shut your mouth! You know who you're talking to!
The report says incidents like this are happening around the country.
This video has gone viral. It shows a lady shouting racist abuse at two Muslim women travelling on a bus in London. At one point, she threatens to kick one of the women who's pregnant in the stomach. Now, anti-Muslim abuse like this, whether it's verbal abuse, actual physical assaults, even arson attacks on mosques, are thought to be on the rise. New research we've seen suggests 2 out of every 5 Muslims have faced some kind of abuse in the UK.
Every morning before going to work, Saha Al-Faifi recites a prayer. She says it's for her protection, to keep her safe when she leaves her house. Saha is 29. She was born in Saudi Arabia and moved to Cardiff as a child. She started wearing the face veil, the niqab, when she was 14. She says it's made her a target for abuse, but recently it's become so frequent, she's scared to leave her own home.
After how ISIS has been constantly connected to Muslims in the media, a lot in the public, they cannot differentiate between Muslims and ISIS. So the kind of abuses that I get it has increased recently, and I get it everywhere I go.
Tell me about what you've experienced.
The abuses can be verbal and sometimes actually physical, when some people pass by and actually try to take off my veil. And these abuses can be like, you're F-word bomber, you are a terrorist, or don't cut off my head, you're ISIS.
Saha used to report the abuse to police, but she says nothing ever happened, so she rarely does now. Recently, there have been physical attacks too, where people have tried to rip her veil off. Saha says she's constantly looking over her shoulder, worried she's going to be abused. It's got to the point where Saha's even started taking a different route to work every morning. She thinks it's safer.
What's that like, living in constant fear of being attacked?
It makes me feel scared. It is real, and it's unfortunate and shame that you see people saying that they don't even recognize Islamophobia as a term, let alone the consequences, while Islamophobia has become part of our daily life. And it's real. It is affecting me on a daily basis.
According to a new report by the Islamic Human Rights Commission, 2 out of every 5 Muslims they questioned said they'd faced either verbal or physical abuse. But it's not just hate crimes worrying them. More than 40% said they'd faced discrimination at work or in education, while more than half of those surveyed believed they've been viewed with suspicion and mistrust. Many Muslims I've spoken to feel they're increasingly being profiled and criminalised because of laws to tackle extremism.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Iman's 19, white and Muslim. She's been looking into Islam for a few years and recently converted. She hasn't told her family. Iman doesn't think they'll approve, so we're keeping her anonymous. Her college suspected she may have been radicalised, and she was reported to officers under the government's controversial counter-extremism agenda, PREVENT.
Was there any change in your behaviour that may have aroused any kind of concern?
So nothing that I think that would, trigger anything at all. But yeah, I guess that was the reason I started wearing a hijab, and that was enough for them to contact PREVENT. The fact that they would think that I would be some kind of terrorist is quite upsetting.
What do you think they thought?
Yeah, I guess maybe I was in ISIS or running away to Syria to get married, I don't know. And I guess Muslim stereotypes were pushed on me. That does show the lack of understanding towards Islam. And I don't think they're doing that for people who become Christian. I don't think they're doing that with, Hindus and Sikhs and Jews and atheists even.
New anti-terror laws mean teachers are under a duty to report those they suspect are at risk of radicalisation. Iman says the government's just alienating Muslim students, making them more vulnerable to radicalisation.
Normal misguided teenager, like a lot of us are, when they get angry and frustrated at things, they are going to turn to people for support. And if the only support they have are those who are extremists, then they're pushing them into the hands of what they're trying to avoid happening.
Iman had the meeting with counter-extremism officers last month. She says she was interrogated about her views and her beliefs. When the PREVENT officers were satisfied Iman wasn't a threat, she says they then tried to recruit her to work for them.
Which I thought was a bit unusual to ask after I've been accused, and then suddenly it's like, no, you're okay now. We know that you're not a terrorist, but can you come work for us? It just went from one extreme to the other, really. And I just can't be a normal Muslim girl who's just trying to get an education and work and do normal things. I've either got to help within radicalisation or I am becoming radicalised. Like, there's no middle ground.
The Home Office say they can't comment on individual cases like Iman's, but told us PREVENT is about protecting those who might be vulnerable to the poisonous influence of radicalisation. The Islamic Human Rights Commission is an organisation that has been looking into discrimination against Muslims in the UK for nearly 2 decades. In 2010, a smaller study they carried out suggested around 1/3 of Muslims felt government policies like those countering extremism had had a negative impact on them. 4 years on, the authors behind their latest study say that figure has nearly doubled.
We've actually got an environment now where Muslims feel they're suspected and where life is increasingly difficult. The impact of government policies, in particular those related with security, but not solely, have really had an impact on silencing Muslims, to be honest. And I don't mean silencing them just from the point of view of talking about political things, but even to do things like report anti-Muslim hatred.
The government is trying to tackle Islamophobia. Anti-Muslim hate crimes are now going to be seen as a specific offence.
All of these things are always welcome. What we really need is a culture change, not sort of little bits of law here and there. It's not to say that everyone in the media or every politician or every person in law enforcement is some kind of vile anti-Muslim racist. It's not. But unfortunately we have problems, institutional problems that need to be addressed.
Tahira Hussein's 26. She's a British Muslim of Bangladeshi heritage. She's worried her 4-year-old daughter Nasiba may face more Islamophobia growing up than she did. Tahira used to wear the face veil. She put up with abuse for a long time, but she says it came to a point where she'd had enough and decided to remove it.
That was a really difficult decision. Taking the niqab off felt like I was taking a couple of steps back in my spiritual path.
Do you think that there'll ever be a point where you return and put the niqab back on again?
I don't think so, no. It's really difficult to wear a niqab here, and the abuse I faced whilst I was wearing niqab, I wouldn't want to go back to that. It was scary.
Tahira's home city of Cardiff has come under the spotlight after a number of young people travelled to Syria to support so-called Islamic State militants. The small Muslim community here feel like they're all coming under suspicion. And with new laws meaning nurseries now also need to look out for signs of radicalisation, parents fear even their children need to be careful about what they say and how they act.
I know that Muslim kids are being monitored very strictly in school, even as young as the age of 3. And if any signs of extremism that they might show, it's going to be picked up. So I am scared of the things that come out of her mouth. Like recently we were involved in a Syrian fundraiser, and she donated some of her toys and she helped with all the wrapping of the gifts. So she keeps talking about that. So she says, "Mummy, one day we'll go to Syria and we'll go see my toys," because she misses the dolls, and we'll go see the little girl who has my toy and she's looking after her. And I'm just like, shh, don't say that, because she says it in shops and like, "Mummy, we'll go to Syria one day." That sentence is just like a toxic sentence that you don't want anyone to hear, that, you know, people will get the wrong impressions.
What impression do you think people would get if they heard her say that?
If they heard her say that, they'd probably think that I'm, you know, the worst case scenario, joining ISIS, I guess.
Most of the people I've spoken to for this film were reluctant to talk to me at first. They just don't trust journalists. Many feel the media has an agenda against Muslims, and only negative stories about Islam get reported. Saha only agreed to share her story because she wants the voices of what she calls real Muslims to be heard. She's on a mission to get more to speak out about their experiences and concerns in public.
With the new anti-extremism laws, with a Muslim treated as suspect and guilty until proven innocent, yes, I see it getting worse, unfortunately, but I still am hopeful. I'm hopeful of people, the public, to not be socially conditioned. We're not demons, as the media perceive us. We're not ISIS criminals, we are a human being like you.
That was an exclusive film by Divya Talwar and Athar Ahmed in collaboration with the BBC's Asian network. We asked the Home Office for their reaction, and they told us this government is committed to combating all forms of hate crime and has done more than any other to counter anti-Muslim hatred. They added, last month the Prime Minister announced that police forces in England and Wales will be required to record anti-Muslim hate crimes as a specific category in the recorded crime statistics for the first time.
I've been getting